So how do you build a multi-core sneaker empire in a place like Bangladesh? Do you need a huge investment, some perfect airtight business plan, or could you start with just 500 taka and a bicycle? Well, this is the absolutely incredible story of BD and its founder, Tamal, who did exactly that. It all starts with the mindset, right? Even back when he was a kid, if a teacher asked him what he wanted to be, Tamal's answer was never, I want to get a job. It was always, I want to give jobs. That ambition, that drive to create something bigger than himself, that was the real seed capital for everything that came next. And that seed capital I was talking about? Well, here it is. This was the total personal investment he used to launch his entire journey. 500 taka. That's it. We're talking about maybe $5. From this one single bill, an empire was about to grow. Okay, so before RMBD was even a thought, Tamal was a student with this one big dream. He wanted to go study in China. But his day-to-day reality, it was a total grind, a real hustle for survival. He was tutoring students, and when that wasn't enough to cover things, he was out on his bicycle doing food delivery, just crisscrossing the city to make ends meet. Then, boom, the world changed. The COVID-19 pandemic hits. And while for most of us this was a massive crisis, for Tamal, it was an opening, an unexpected opportunity. His college junior, Mehdi, calls him up with a really simple idea. Hey, there's a huge demand for K95 masks right now. Mehdi had a supplier, and Tamal had that relentless work ethic and his bike. It was kind of the perfect match. So you'd think that's the start of the big success story, right? Well, not so fast. The path to success was anything but a straight line. The early days were messy. A frantic series of experiments, pivots, and a lot of failures. It was way less of a business plan and way more of a desperate fight for survival, just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick. And I mean, they tried everything. First up were the K95 masks. They boomed, and then the market completely crashed, leaving them with a ton of stock they couldn't sell. So they switched gears to surgical masks, but they got hit with a wave of fake bulk orders. Next, they tried custom keychains. That turned into a total logistical nightmare. They did finally find a little bit of success with some designer-branded masks, but that created a whole new, much bigger problem. And that new problem? It was a digital brick wall, a reoccurring nightmare. See, because they were selling branded products, or copies, the Facebook algorithm was basically their arch nemesis. Just imagine this. Every single time they started to build some momentum, get some followers, poof, the ad account is disabled, the page gets banned, and they'd have to start all over again from scratch. It was beyond frustrating. But here's the crazy part. Through all of this chaos, all the failed ideas, and getting shut down online, Tamal never lost sight of that original dream, getting to China. He was constantly online, networking, researching, and it was that obsession that was about to unknowingly lead him to the single biggest turning point in his entire story. So you gotta ask yourself, what happens when years of this kind of relentless, nonstop hustle finally collides with the exact right person at the exact right time? Well, everything is about to change. So, remember that China dream? It finally pays off, but not in the way he ever expected. He's in this Facebook group for students who want to go to China, and he connects with a guy named Saiful Bai who's already importing stuff. And get this, with literally no money of his own, Tamal convinces Saiful to let him resell his products. He starts with electronics, but then he notices something else Saiful is bringing in, sneakers. On a hunch, he decides to pivot one more time, and that right there was the moment he struck gold. All right, so now we're officially in the sneaker business. But I want you to get any idea of a fancy office or some slick operation out of your head. The brand BD was forged in pure, unfiltered, back-breaking hard work, and a core belief that would make them stand out from everybody else. I mean, the daily reality was just brutal. I want you to picture this. Tamal would cycle for kilometers to get to Saiful's place, stuff these heavy shoeboxes into grocery bags, and hang them from his handlebars. Then he'd cycle all the way back and have to climb 6 flights of stairs up to his apartment just to pack a single order. The whole operation was so chaotic that at one point his own mom told him to get all the shoes out of her house. But this is where he did something that was completely different from everyone else in the market. See, at the time, all his competitors were claiming their shoes were made in Vietnam. It was kind of this open secret that it wasn't true. Tamal made a radical choice. He was just going to tell the truth. He told every single customer, right up front, look, these are high-quality replicas from China, and that transparency, it was revolutionary. It became his secret weapon for building customer trust. So, with this foundation of honesty, the business was growing steadily. It was becoming a small but trusted online store. But it was about to go from that to a full-blown viral phenomenon, and it was all thanks to a huge setback and one spontaneous decision to just hit record. Remember that Facebook problem? Well, it came back, just as they were really hitting their stride. With a loyal community of over 12,000 people, bam, the main page gets banned. Again. It was devastating. With their primary marketing channel just gone, Tamal realized that pictures and ads weren't going to cut it anymore. He had to become the face of his own brand. And then, shortly after this disaster, a family visiting from Canada finds RMBD online. They show up, and they are so blown away by the quality of the shoes that they end up spending 55,000 taka. I mean, that is a massive sale, especially when your store is literally just a display setup in a tiny apartment room. As the family was there, paying in cash, something just clicked for Tamal. He didn't write a script, he didn't set up any lights, he just whipped out his phone and started filming. The cash, the shoe boxes, the happy customers. He posted that raw, authentic video online, and it just went insane. It got millions of views. And it worked because people didn't see an ad, they saw proof. They saw a real family having a genuinely great experience, and that was more powerful than any ad he could have ever made. After that one video, it was like a dam broke. The floodgates just opened. The business didn't just grow, it absolutely exploded. Tamal went from that makeshift display in a small apartment room to opening professional, high-end retail stores just to keep up with the overwhelming demand. And if you want to understand just how big that explosion was, you really just have to look at the numbers. To open their first proper outlet in Mirpur, it took about 6 lock-in advance payments and another 13 lock for decoration. But to get a flagship store in a premium mall like Jamuna Future Park, whoa, the numbers just jumped to a completely different dimension. A 50 lakh taka advance, 7 lakh a month in rent, and another 50 lakh just for the decor. Let's just put that into perspective. The total cost just to get the doors open before buying a single pair of shoes jumped from around 20 lakh taka for the first store to over 1 crore taka for the mall location. That is what hypergrowth looks like in cold hard cash. So when you boil it all down, what was the secret sauce here? It really wasn't just about selling shoes, was it? Earnbead's winning formula was really built on 3 core pillars. First, that radical honesty about where their products came from. Second, a relentless obsession with finding the best possible quality. And finally, building a real personal connection with customers by putting a human face to the brand. And that kind of brings us to our final thought. BD built this massive, successful, and authentic brand by selling copies. It really makes you think, doesn't it? In a market that is just saturated with fakes and copies, maybe the most powerful and valuable original thing you can offer is just honesty.